Hey everyone, welcome back to ShadowSpeak English. We are genuinely very happy that you decided to spend some time learning English with us today, because this episode is going to be practical, relaxing, and extremely useful for your real-life speaking confidence.
Yes, and today's lesson is especially interesting because we are going to focus on a grammar confusion that many English learners experience almost every day while speaking naturally.
Exactly. Today we are talking about is and were, and even though these words look very small and simple, they actually create a lot of confusion during fast conversations.
I completely agree, because sometimes I understand the grammar rule perfectly while studying quietly. But when I suddenly start speaking English in a real conversation, my brain mixes everything together, and I accidentally use the wrong tense.
And honestly, Amy, that happens to almost every English learner. When people speak naturally, they usually focus on communicating ideas quickly, not on slowly analyzing grammar rules in their heads.
Yes, and that's why small mistakes happen automatically, especially when we feel nervous or excited during conversations.
Exactly. So, instead of studying grammar like a school textbook today, we are going to learn through a realistic conversation that sounds much closer to everyday life.
We'll listen carefully, notice the mistakes naturally, and then slowly correct them together step by step, so everyone listening can understand the logic behind the grammar.
Exactly. And before we begin the lesson, we want everyone listening right now to participate in today's English challenge question.
Yes, because learning becomes much more powerful when you actively think and answer, instead of only listening passively.
All right, everyone, here is today's challenge question. Which sentence sounds more natural? The shops were open today. The shops are open today.
Honestly, both sentences sound possible to me depending on the situation, so this one feels a little tricky.
And that is exactly why this question is interesting, because English grammar often depends on context, timing, and situation.
Take a moment to think carefully before choosing your answer, because we'll explain it later during the episode.
And don't keep your answer only in your mind. Write it in the comments section, because we genuinely enjoy reading your responses and helping you improve your English naturally.
And if you enjoy learning English through calm, podcast-style conversations like this one, please support ShadowSpeak English by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this episode with a friend who is also learning English.
All right, everyone, get comfortable, relax, listen carefully, and let's begin today's real conversation analysis. All right, let's listen carefully to the conversation between Emma and Daniel. Don't worry too much about grammar at first. Just relax and notice if anything sounds unusual or unnatural.
Hey Daniel, I'm really sorry that I didn't reply to your messages earlier today. My phone is dead yesterday, and I couldn't charge it for several hours because the electricity suddenly stopped working in my apartment building.
Oh, don't worry about it at all. Honestly, I were extremely busy at work today too, so I didn't really have enough time to check my phone messages properly either.
Yeah, the office is very crowded this morning, and almost everybody looked stressed because there were multiple meetings happening at the same time.
Really? That's surprising because when I visited your office last week, the whole place were actually very quiet and peaceful.
I know, it felt completely different today. Even the meeting room were full of people for almost 2 hours without any break.
Wow, that honestly sounds exhausting. I'm really glad I stayed at home today instead of going anywhere crowded.
Okay, I could understand the meaning of the entire conversation very clearly, but I definitely noticed a few sentences that sounded strange to my ears.
That's actually a really good sign, Amy, because the moment your brain starts noticing that something sounds unnatural, It means your English listening instincts are becoming stronger.
I think most of the mistakes happened because the conversation mixed present tense and past tense together in confusing ways.
Exactly. And this is one of the most common mistakes English learners make while speaking naturally, because conversations move quickly and people don't always stop to think carefully about grammar.
Especially with small grammar words like is, was, and were, because they change depending on time and subject.
Exactly right. So now let's go slowly and fix each mistake together one step at a time. Let's look at the first sentence carefully. My phone is dead yesterday. What sounds strange about this sentence to you?
The word yesterday immediately makes me think about the past, so using is feels incorrect, because is usually talks about the present moment.
Perfect observation. Since the situation happened yesterday, we need to use past tense grammar. Correct sentence. My phone was dead yesterday.
So the time word completely changes the grammar choice in the sentence.
Exactly. Words like yesterday, last night, last week, and this morning are very powerful grammar clues because they tell your brain whether the sentence belongs in the present or the past. Now let's look at the next sentence. I were extremely busy at work today.
This one sounds easier to notice because I remember hearing that we usually say I was, not I were.
Exactly right. Correct sentence. I was extremely busy at work today.
So with I, we always use was in past tense conversations. Hearing the full pattern together makes it much easier to remember naturally.
Exactly. Because your brain remembers rhythm and patterns better than isolated grammar rules. Now let's examine another sentence carefully. The whole place were actually very quiet.
I think the problem here is that place is singular, so were doesn't match correctly.
Exactly right again. Correct sentence. The whole place was actually very quiet.
So before choosing was or were, I should check whether the subject is singular or plural.
That's exactly the correct thinking process. If the subject is singular, we usually use was. If the subject is plural, we usually use were.
That already feels much clearer in my mind now.
Now let's fix the final sentence. Even the meeting room were full of people.
Again, meeting room is singular, so we should say was.
Exactly. Correct sentence. Even the meeting room was full of people.
I'm starting to notice a pattern now. First, I should check the time, and then I should check whether the subject is singular or plural.
That is honestly one of the best ways to think about English grammar during real conversations. Alright everyone, now that we have carefully analyzed each mistake one step at a time, it's time to listen to the full corrected version of Emma and Daniel's conversation.
Yes, and I think this is the most satisfying part of the lesson, because now we can clearly hear how much smoother and more natural the conversation sounds after fixing only a few small grammar mistakes.
Exactly. And while you listen this time, try to focus on the rhythm, the tense changes, and how naturally the sentences flow together.
Hey, Daniel. I'm really sorry that I didn't reply to your messages earlier today. My phone was dead yesterday, and I couldn't charge it for several hours because the electricity suddenly stopped working in my apartment building.
Oh, don't worry about it at all. Honestly, I was extremely busy at work today too, so I didn't really have enough time to check my phone messages properly either.
Yeah, the office was very crowded this morning, and almost everybody looked stressed because there were multiple meetings happening at the same time.
Really? That's surprising because when I visited your office last week, the whole place was actually very quiet and peaceful.
I know, it felt completely different today. Even the meeting room was full of people for almost 2 hours without any break.
Wow, that honestly sounds exhausting. I'm really glad I stayed at home today instead of going anywhere crowded.
Wow, this version sounds so much smoother and more natural compared to the first conversation we heard earlier.
Exactly. And the most interesting part is that we didn't completely rewrite the conversation. We only corrected a few small grammar words, but those small changes made the conversation sound much more natural and fluent.
I think listening to both versions one after another really helps me hear the difference more clearly.
That's exactly why conversation analysis is such a powerful way to improve your English speaking and listening skills naturally. All right, everyone. It's finally time to reveal the answer to today's English challenge question.
Let's carefully look at the two sentences one more time. The shops were open today. The shops are open today.
If the shops are still open right now while you are speaking, then the correct answer is the shops are open today.
Because today is still continuing in the present moment.
Exactly. But if someone says the sentence late at night after the shop's already closed, then were could also sound natural depending on the context.
So grammar is not only about memorizing rules. Understanding the situation is equally important.
Exactly. Context changes grammar choices all the time in natural English conversations. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end of today's episode. And we genuinely hope this lesson helped you feel more confident about using is, was, and were naturally in real-life English conversation.
Yes, and I personally feel that learning through realistic conversations makes grammar much easier to understand and remember compared to simply reading rules from a textbook.
Exactly. The more real English you listen to consistently, the more naturally your brain begins recognizing grammar patterns automatically.
And if you made mistakes during today's quiz or practice sections, please don't feel discouraged, because mistakes are a completely normal and important part of learning English.
And we would genuinely love to hear from you in the comments section. Which part of today's lesson helped you the most? And what grammar topic would you like us to explain in the next episode?
Maybe do versus did, or have versus had, or even more real conversation correction episodes like today's lesson.
And if you enjoyed learning with us today, please support ShadowSpeak English by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this episode with someone who is also trying to improve their English naturally.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Bye everyone, and happy learning.